The signal first appeared as a barely perceptible fluctuation in the Deep Space Observatory's sensors, a simple anomaly that seemed too insignificant to merit further investigation. Most of the staff at Earth's premier observatory dismissed it as background noise, but Dr. Lena Clark, an astrobiologist who specialized in extraterrestrial communication, immediately sensed something different. She was alone in the observation room when the signal blinked again, a short burst of data, so faint that it almost seemed like a mistake. But Lena had learned to trust her instincts. She adjusted the filters on her console, isolating the transmission from the usual cosmic background. The static cleared, revealing a repeating sequences that didn't belong to any known pattern of cosmic radiation. They were deliberate. The oddities in the signal structure gave it a rhythm, a pulse, a faint but unmistakable message. For a moment, Lena felt her pulse quicken. She leaned closer to the screen, her eyes narrowing as the data came into focus. It wasn't much, but it was something, a pattern she had seen before in her studies of ancient alien communications. The signal strength fluctuated erratically, and when Lena amplified it, the message became clearer but still broken. Words, sentences, and images flashed before her eyes, garbled but unmistakable. Help us. Nyrax. The name hit her like a shockwave, and she froze. Nyrax, a name that was the stuff of legends, an ancient alien empire said to control vast swaths of the galaxy. The very thought that they would send a distress signal to Earth was unthinkable. No one had ever communicated with the Nyrax. Humanity was barely known to them, if at all. But here, in this isolated corner of space, a cry for help had been sent. She couldn't waste time. Lena immediately contacted her supervisor, Professor Michael Hayes, a seasoned astrophysicist who had worked on first contact protocols for decades. The message was too important to keep to herself. Hayes, who had seen his share of false alarms, took a deep breath as he analyzed the data. His fingers hovered over the keys, and he paused. "Impossible," he muttered. But then he scanned the data again, more carefully. "Lena, this is real, but it's fragmented. We need more time to decrypt this." Time, however, was a luxury they didn't have. The signal's intensity increased over the next few hours, coming in waves, short bursts of data laced with desperation. It was almost as though the sender was fighting to keep the signal alive, pushing through the limitations of their technology as their own survival depended on it. The pattern shifted again, and this time, a string of numbers appeared, coordinates. "Lena, these coordinates are within Nyrax territory," Hayes said, his voice tight with disbelief. "What are they trying to tell us? This can't be some random transmission." Lena stared at the screen, absorbing the magnitude of what they were uncovering. The Nyrax were known for their military superiority and vast intergalactic empire. They had never shown any interest in Earth or its inhabitants. Why would they reach out now, and why to humanity of all species? The mystery gnawed at her. There had to be more to this signal, and time was running out. Earth needed to decode it, fast. But as Lena worked to piece together the broken message, one terrifying possibility surfaced in her mind. The Nyrax were in trouble, and the universe was about to change forever. The decision was made. A team would be assembled, and a full-scale investigation would begin. But with every passing second, the signal grew more urgent, and Lena couldn't shake the feeling that the cryptic message wasn't the only thing in space reaching out to humanity. The signal was a cry for help, but who or what was sending it? And could humanity truly afford to answer? As the days passed, the urgency of the signal became palpable. Lena's team at the observatory worked tirelessly to decode the fragmented transmissions. Every hour felt like a race against time as more data poured in. The initial cryptic bursts of "Help Us" and Nyrax had evolved into more complex strings of code, coordinates, dates, and what appeared to be star maps. But one thing was clear: the message wasn't just a desperate cry for aid. It was a blueprint for survival. The Nirax weren't reaching out to humanity out of the kindness of their hearts. There was something at stake, something that had pushed a species as advanced and ruthless as the Nirax to the edge of their empire. Lena and her team pored over the latest batch of decoded data, piecing together a clearer picture. The coordinates pointed to a star system deep within Nirax-controlled space, known for its strategic military importance. Lena's fingers trembled as she read the next part of the transmission. The words were jumbled, but the message seemed almost like a warning. The Reclaimer, betrayal. Empire crumbles. Must act before it's too late. The mention of the Reclaimer caught her attention. It wasn't a term she had heard in any of the historical data on the Nirax. In fact, it wasn't even clear if the Reclaimer was a person or an organization. But the term carried a weight of importance, and Lena's instincts told her that understanding its meaning could be the key to unlocking the true nature of the Nirax's plea. With each new discovery, it became evident that the Nirax were in the midst of a civil war. The Empire, once an indomitable force, was fracturing. What had seemed like an infallible order was now crumbling under the pressure of internal strife, and the Nirax had nowhere to turn. Their once unstoppable military might was being overthrown by a faction they had underestimated. A faction that, in its desperation, had turned to humanity as their last hope. Lena was still processing the implications when she was called into a meeting with Professor Hayes and the UN's Global Defense Council. A sense of unease settled in her chest as she entered the room. The council, composed of Earth's top leaders and military experts, had been monitoring the situation closely. They knew what was at stake. "Lena, we need your expertise," Hayes said, his voice calm but urgent. "We believe this signal is a genuine request for help, but we also need to consider the possibility that the Nirax are trying to manipulate us." Lena nodded, absorbing the gravity of the situation. "I've been reviewing the data. There's no doubt that the Nirax are facing an internal crisis. The Empire is unstable, and whoever sent this signal, whether they're a faction or a group of defectors, believes that humanity might be able to tip the balance." "But why us?" One of the council members interjected. "Why Earth? What can we possibly offer them that they don't already have in their arsenal?" "That's what we need to figure out," Lena said, her mind racing. "There's more to this than just a simple military request. They're reaching out because they're vulnerable, but there's also something hidden in the signal that we haven't fully deciphered yet. Something important. Maybe the Reclaimer, whoever or whatever they are, holds the key to understanding what they really need." The council fell silent, contemplating the enormity of the decision before them. The choice was not just about answering a cry for help. It was about determining the fate of humanity in a galaxy far larger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. If Earth chose to intervene, it could spark a galactic conflict, one that they may not survive. But if they ignored the call, they risked leaving humanity vulnerable to whatever force was challenging the Nirax. "We have no choice," Hayes said, breaking the silence. "We must respond, but we need to be prepared. This isn't just about helping them. It's about securing our place in the galaxy." The decision was made. The next steps would be critical. Lena and her team were assigned to continue their work on decoding the message, while Earth's military began planning an unprecedented operation. They would infiltrate Nirax space, if they could get that far, and investigate the true nature of the rebellion. They would try to make contact with the Nirax rebels, or the Reclaimer, whoever they might be. Lena's heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement. Humanity was about to take its first steps into the galaxy's most dangerous arena, and there was no turning back. The question that loomed was no longer whether humanity would respond, it was how they would be changed by the choices they made in the coming days. But as the team worked into the night, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that answering this signal was only the beginning. A much darker challenge awaited them, one that could alter the fate of the galaxy forever. The first contact with the Nyrax rebels was a disaster. After weeks of preparation, Earth's joint military and scientific team, led by Lena, made its way toward the coordinates provided by the broken signal. Their mission was clear: locate the source of the rebellion within Nyrax space, make contact with the faction behind the distress call, and, if possible, negotiate an alliance. But the reality of what they encountered was far more complex and far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The fleet entered Nyrax space under the cover of a temporary ceasefire. The rebellion's leaders had agreed to a delicate truce with Earth, and for a brief moment, there was hope that this mission could unfold peacefully. But as Earth's ships crossed into enemy territory, Lena sensed that something was off. The atmosphere on the bridge was tense, the silence deafening. Every officer, every scientist seemed to be waiting for something to go wrong. Lena's intuition was right. The Nyrax were waiting, but not in the way they expected. The rebel leader, Asterisk, the Reclaimer Asterisk, had promised to meet them in a secluded system. Yet, as Earth's fleet approached, no ships emerged from the shadows of the distant stars. Instead, they encountered a decoy fleet, led by a series of aggressive, heavily armed ships that fired without warning. Earth's fleet returned fire in self-defense, but the situation quickly spiraled out of control. "Captain, we're being ambushed," shouted Lieutenant Tanaka, the fleet's tactical officer. "It's a setup." Lena's eyes widened in shock as she watched the holographic projections on the bridge. The ships that had been marked as rebel allies were now unmistakably Nyrax warships, the unmistakable insignia of the Imperial Navy flashing on their hulls. It wasn't a rebellion that had sent the signal, it was a trap. The Nyrax Empire, or what remained of it, had been testing Earth's response all along. They had never intended to negotiate with humanity. "What's happening?" Lena's voice trembled. She couldn't comprehend the betrayal. The signal had been genuine, but the one who sent it was not an ally. It was a faction loyal to the Empire, looking to lure Earth into their web for their own purposes. "We need to get out of here," shouted Captain Hayes, his voice strained. "Full retreat. All ships disengage." But it was already too late. As Earth's fleet attempted to break off, Nyrax ships continued to surround them, cutting off any potential escape route. The Empire's forces were ruthless, and their firepower was overwhelming. The ships that had been entrusted to Earth's military were ill-prepared for a battle of this scale, and soon their defenses began to buckle. In the midst of the chaos, Lena saw something that shook her to the core: a single Nyrax warship breaking through the battle lines and heading directly toward her. It was a sleek black vessel, adorned with the insignia of Asterisk, the Reclaimer Asterisk. But something was wrong. The ship's configuration didn't match any known design from the Empire. Its hull was scarred, worn down, as if it had been through years of battle. And then Lena noticed a flicker on the communication channels. The signal, it was coming from that ship. The same broken transmission they had been decoding for weeks. Lena's heart skipped a beat as the message came through, clearer now than ever before. Asterisk, the Reclaimer has fallen. Do not trust them. The Empire must burn Asterisk. The truth hit her like a freight train. Asterisk, the Reclaimer Asterisk, wasn't an ally. It was a false flag, a figurehead planted by the remnants of the Nyrax Empire, leading humanity into a trap. The rebels had never intended to welcome Earth. They had only wanted to see if they could manipulate Earth's forces into helping them eliminate their own enemies. "Abort the mission!" Lena screamed into the comms, her voice raw with panic. "Get out of here now!" But the fleet was already trapped. The battle turned into a slaughter. Earth's ships were outnumbered, outgunned, and caught in a deadly web. As explosions lit up the sky, Lena could only watch helplessly as the very message they had worked so hard to decode turned into their doom. The Nyrax Empire had used them as pawns, manipulating their desperate search for meaning in a broken transmission. As the last of Earth's ships pulled back, retreating to the safety of their own space. Lena's mind raced with the implications of what had just happened. The Nirax weren't just testing humanity's response, they were hunting them, playing a far more dangerous game than anyone could have anticipated. And the true battle was only just beginning. Lena's eyes burned with a new determination. They had been betrayed, yes, but this was only the beginning of a much darker conflict. There was more to the Reclaimer's asterisk message than anyone realized, and Lena vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the ambush, Earth's fleet limped back to the safety of its own territory, battered and broken. The message from the Nirax Empire was clear: humanity had been played, manipulated, and betrayed. The so-called rebellion was no rebellion at all, just a faction loyal to the Empire, attempting to turn Earth's hope into a weapon against their own internal enemies. The Reclaimer, the symbol of humanity's hope, was not a liberator but a false flag, a puppet of a crumbling empire desperate to cling to power. But despite the crushing blow to their morale, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play, something hidden deep within the broken signal, something that could explain why the Nirax had gone to such extremes to involve humanity. The message had been deliberately fragmented, yes, but there had to be more to it than just a trap. If the Nirax were truly in such dire straits, why would they target Earth for help? What was it that they needed so badly? As the fleet returned to Earth, Lena found herself in the midst of an urgent briefing with the UN Global Defense Council. She sat at the table, surrounded by military officials and top scientists, all of them analyzing the wreckage of the failed mission. Yet, even as the discussions focused on damage control and potential retaliation, Lena's mind was elsewhere, back on the cryptic transmissions. "Lena, any new insights?" Professor Hayes asked, his voice grim. "We've analyzed the data from the Nirax ships we recovered. There's nothing conclusive. No sign of an imminent Nirax collapse." "I'm not so sure," Lena said, her voice tight with determination. "I think they were hiding something. I believe the message wasn't just about asking for help. It was about showing us something critical. The signal wasn't meant to lure us into an ambush. It was meant to guide us to a hidden weapon." The room went silent. Everyone turned toward her, their skepticism apparent. The idea of a hidden weapon, especially one powerful enough to be worth the attention of the Nirax Empire, was far-fetched. But Lena's instincts told her otherwise. She couldn't ignore the data she had reviewed in the past few days. The coordinates embedded in the signal weren't just random points. They were precise, targeting a location in a star system known for its strategic importance to the Nirax. "There's more to this," Lena continued, pacing before the group. "The coordinates lead to an abandoned moon, deep within Nirax territory. The signal might have been a distress call, yes, but it's also a map to something the Nirax Empire wants to keep hidden." The council exchanged uneasy glances. "And you think we should go after it?" one of the generals asked, his voice skeptical. "After the ambush, after what they did to us." "Think about it," Lena said, her voice steady, though her heart raced. "The Nirax wouldn't risk sending a transmission like that unless they were desperate. Whatever is on that moon, it's not just a weapon, it's something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. If we don't act, someone else will. And if we're lucky, maybe this time it's a weapon we can control." The room fell into silence again as the weight of her words settled. After a long moment, the council made their decision. The mission to retrieve whatever the Nirax were hiding was greenlit. But this time, it wouldn't be a military operation. It would be a covered, highly classified mission led by Lena and a select group of experts. No military forces, no fanfare. Just a team of the best minds Earth had to offer. Lena prepared herself for what would be an unprecedented journey. She had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. The Nirax had secrets and humanity had to uncover them, no matter the cost. As Lena gathered her team, she couldn't help but think about the message that had started it all. The broken signal that had been both a cry for help and a trap. But now, as they readied themselves to venture deeper into Nyrax space, she felt something stir within her. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't being led into a trap. Maybe, at the heart of it all, the Nyrax weren't just trying to save themselves. They were offering humanity an opportunity to rise. But would humanity take it, or would they find themselves entangled in a war that was bigger than anything they could imagine? The pieces were coming together, and Lena knew that they were about to make contact with a force far beyond their understanding. The next phase of the mission would either mark the beginning of humanity's rise to power or its annihilation. The mission was set. Lena's team, a small group of the brightest minds in science and strategy, would venture into Nyrax-controlled space to uncover the secrets buried on the abandoned moon. The journey was fraught with danger, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Earth's fleet was still recovering from the ambush, its morale shattered, and their military resources stretched thin. But Lena couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this moon held the key to everything: the Nyrax rebellion, the Empire's crumbling might, and perhaps even humanity's future in the galaxy. The team was assembled aboard the Athena, a small, advanced research vessel equipped with stealth technology to avoid detection by Nyrax patrols. Lena was joined by Captain Olivia Pierce, a seasoned military officer whose experience in covert operations had earned her respect, and Dr. Jonah Kim, a physicist whose expertise in space-time manipulation was invaluable for decoding the strange anomalies surrounding the moon. Along with a handful of engineers and cryptographers, they were ready to embark on what could be their final mission. As the Athena glided through the vastness of space, Lena couldn't help but feel the weight of the task ahead. Their destination was a remote moon on the edge of Nyrax space, in a system long abandoned by the Empire. From the data they'd recovered, it seemed like an insignificant, barren rock, but something in the signal had suggested otherwise. There was something hidden there, something so powerful that it could change the fate of the galaxy. "We'll be entering the system in 12 hours, Captain Pierce announced, her voice calm but firm. "Stealth mode is engaged, and we'll avoid any Nyrax patrols. I'll keep the ship's sensors on high alert, but I need everyone to be ready for anything." Lena nodded, the excitement mingling with a sense of foreboding. She had no idea what awaited them on that moon, but she was certain that it was something the Nyrax had gone to great lengths to hide. The signal they had received was no random distress call, it was a warning. A warning of the destructive potential of whatever lay waiting in the cold silence of the distant moon. The hours stretched into an uneasy quiet as they drew closer to their destination. Lena's thoughts kept drifting back to the cryptic message. "The Reclaimer has fallen. Do not trust them. The Empire must burn." Was the Reclaimer a martyr, a false hero, or perhaps something worse? Was the message an omen or a call for retribution? The more she thought about it, the more the pieces didn't add up. The Nyrax Empire, for all its might, was on the brink of collapse, yet they had reached out to humanity. But why? Was it just to use them, or was there something deeper at play? As they approached the moon, Dr. Kim began scanning the surface. His brow furrowed as he studied the data. "Lena, I'm detecting unusual energy readings beneath the surface. It's not just power signatures, it's something different, almost like a gravitational anomaly." Lena's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the first real clue that the moon wasn't as abandoned as it seemed. Whatever the Nyrax had hidden here, it was powerful, and it wasn't going to be easy to retrieve. "We need to land," Lena said, her voice resolute. "Prepare for descent." As the Athena descended through the moon's atmosphere, the team watched in silence as the barren landscape of gray dust and jagged rock came into view. There were no signs of life, no structures visible at first glance. But beneath the surface, Lena could feel the hum of something ancient, something waiting. They landed near a cluster of craters, carefully avoiding any signs of previous Nyrax activity. As the landing gear settled, Lena and her team suited up and prepared to disembark. The air on the moon was thin and cold, but the atmosphere was breathable, just another sign that the moon had once been a thriving outpost, now abandoned by all but the shadows. Dr. Kim led the way, his handheld scanner flashing with erratic readings as they approached a large rock formation near the largest crater. His voice was tinged with awe and fear. "There's something buried here. I can feel it. This isn't just a weapon. It's a network, an entire facility." Lena's pulse quickened as they unearthed a hidden entrance, an ancient, almost forgotten doorway leading deep into the moon's surface. It was clearly not of Nyrax design, nor anything they had encountered before. The door, ancient and worn, hummed with power as they activated it. "What is this place?" Captain Pierce asked, her voice tense. Lena's mind raced. Whatever it is, it's not just a weapon. It's a vault, a repository of knowledge, or power. With a deep breath, Lena stepped forward, leading her team into the unknown. They had no idea what they would find beneath the surface, but they were about to uncover the truth about the Nyrax Empire's greatest secret. And once they did, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The heavy metallic door groaned as it slid open, revealing a dimly lit passage that seemed to stretch endlessly into the heart of the moon. The air inside was musty, stale from centuries of disuse, but there was something electric about the silence. It was as if the very walls of the vault held their breath, waiting for something, or someone, to disturb them. Lena led the team into the passageway, her mind racing with the implications of what they might find. Every step they took echoed in the vast empty space, amplifying the feeling that they were walking through the remnants of a forgotten past. The readings on Dr. Kim's scanner grew more erratic the deeper they ventured, spiking with each new step they took. "Whatever's down here, it's not just a weapon," Dr. Kim muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "This place, it's like a living organism." Lena nodded, her thoughts aligning with his. There was something unnerving about the architecture, sleek, angular, and clearly not of Nyrax design. It was far older, more advanced, and yet somehow alien, even by the standards of the galaxy's most sophisticated civilizations. The walls of the tunnel were covered in strange symbols, unfamiliar hieroglyphs that seemed to pulse faintly in the dim light. Lena couldn't read them, but they exuded an aura of ancient power. As they walked deeper, the air grew heavier, charged with an energy that hummed beneath their feet. The further they descended, the more it became clear that they weren't just in a hidden military base or an abandoned research station. This was something far more significant. It was a tomb, a vault, and possibly the key to understanding everything that had happened in the galaxy over the past few centuries. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the heart of the facility, a massive chamber, larger than any building Lena had seen in her life. At the center of the room stood a colossal structure, a towering artifact that hummed with a strange energy. It was an obelisk, but its surface was unlike anything Lena had ever seen. Smooth, jet black, and covered in those same cryptic symbols, the obelisk pulsed as though it was alive, feeding off the energy coursing through the vault. "Is this a weapon?" Captain Pierce asked, her voice low with awe. She stepped closer to the obelisk, her hand hovering just above its surface. Lena took a slow, measured breath, her eyes fixed on the towering structure. "It's not a weapon in the way we understand it. It's something much more, ancient. This is a repository of knowledge, possibly a data core of sorts, but on a level we can't even comprehend. The energy it's emitting isn't just technological. It's something else, something alive." Dr. Kim's scanner was going haywire now, the readings becoming incomprehensible. "Whatever it is, it's connected to the very fabric of this moon. It's as if the entire structure is part of the energy matrix that powers the vault." Lena stepped forward, drawn to the obelisk like a moth to a flame. There was a pull, an unexplainable force that seemed to reach out to her. She placed her hand on its surface, and the moment she did, the symbols on the obelisk lit up with a blinding blue light. The air crackled with energy, and Lena felt a jolt of power surge through her. Her mind exploded with visions, flashes of alien landscapes, strange beings, and a galaxy at war. The images were fragmented and chaotic, but one thing was clear: this was not just a vault. It was a doorway to something far larger. The ancient civilization that had built this place had mastered powers beyond imagination. Powers that had been lost to time and war, hidden away for reasons Lena couldn't yet understand. A voice echoed in her mind, alien yet strangely familiar. "The time has come. You are the key." Lena staggered back, shaking her head to clear the disorienting visions. She looked around at her team, their faces pale, their eyes wide with disbelief. What the hell just happened? Captain Pierce demanded, her hand on her weapon. "Lena, are you all right?" Lena took a deep breath, her heart racing. I think I saw something. Something that told me we've only uncovered the surface of this place. This obelisk, this entire facility, it's not just a weapon or a power source. It's a connection to something far older, far more advanced. Whoever built this, they were not of this galaxy. Dr. Kim stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the obelisk. "And what does that mean for us? What are we supposed to do now?" Lena swallowed hard. "I think the Nirax were right to be afraid of this place. Whatever was hidden here, it's not just a weapon. It's a power that could reshape the entire galaxy. And we need to figure out how to control it before someone else does." The team stood in silence, the weight of their discovery settling over them like a storm cloud. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and they had just unearthed a force that could either save humanity or doom them all. But Lena knew one thing for certain: the journey they had started was far from over. The true battle had just begun, and this vault was only the first step toward understanding the forces at play. Whatever the Nirax had hidden here, it was only the beginning of something much larger, and humanity was now a part of it. The team stood frozen before the obelisk, their minds reeling from the overwhelming revelations. Lena's pulse raced, her breath shallow as the strange energy in the room continued to hum and crackle. The air felt thick, as though the very walls of the facility were alive and watching them. The visions, though fleeting, had been too real to ignore. There was a force in this vault, something that had been dormant for millennia, waiting for the right moment to awaken. "Lena?" Captain Pierce's voice cut through the tension. "What exactly did you see? You were out for a moment there. Are we in danger?" Lena shook her head, still dazed from the experience. It wasn't a vision, exactly. It was more like a message. I think the obelisk is more than just a storage device or a weapon. It's a conduit. It's connected to something ancient, something that may have shaped the galaxy in ways we don't understand." Dr. Kim's face was pale as he tried to make sense of the readings on his scanner. "The energy here isn't just physical, it's something more. The power signature, it's fluctuating, it's alive." Lena stepped forward cautiously, her hand hovering over the surface of the obelisk. The symbols that had lit up moments ago now seemed to pulse rhythmically, as if the obelisk was breathing. She reached out again, this time with more purpose. The moment her fingers touched the surface, the symbols flared brightly, and a wave of energy rippled through the room. The ground beneath them trembled, and the air grew thick with an electric charge. Suddenly, the obelisk began to shift. The solid surface fractured, revealing a series of intricate, glowing patterns beneath. The once static structure was now alive, transforming before their eyes. The symbols rearranged, glowing with an intensity that felt like the heartbeat of the moon itself. Lena stumbled back, overwhelmed by the power radiating from the artifact. "It's activating," she whispered. A low hum filled the chamber as the obelisk's surface melted away, revealing a hidden compartment deep within. Within the compartment was a series of interconnected devices, relics of technology far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. The relics were intricately designed, each one linked to the other by a web of energy that pulsed with a deep, resonant vibration. The vault wasn't just a weapon, it was a nexus of knowledge, a bridge to an intelligence that transcended the boundaries of space and time. "Lena, what is this?" Captain Pierce asked, her voice laced with awe. "Is this the key to the Nyrax's downfall?" Lena swallowed hard. "I don't know, but this technology, it's not from the Nyrax. It predates them. This is far older. I think the Nyrax were merely custodians of this place, protecting it from something or someone." As Lena approached the glowing relics, a sudden surge of energy shot through her, and once again, a voice filled her mind, clearer this time. "The time of awakening has come. You have found the key. The galaxy is in your hands." Lena froze, the voice echoing in her skull, its meaning seeping into her very being. Her body tensed, the weight of the words settling heavily on her shoulders. She looked around at her team, their faces filled with confusion and fear. They hadn't heard the voice. It was hers alone to bear. What did it say?" Captain Pierce asked, her voice filled with urgency. Lena fought to steady her breathing. "It spoke to me. It said, 'We've found the key. The galaxy is in our hands.'" Dr. Kim's eyes widened in disbelief. A voice? From the artifact? This is more than just technology. It's an intelligence, an entity. But if it's truly ancient, how does it still exist? "That's what I don't understand," Lena muttered. "It's been dormant for millennia. But now, it's awake, and it's speaking through me." Captain Pierce stepped forward, eyeing the relics cautiously. "What does it want from us?" Lena turned toward the relics again, the hum in the room growing louder, pressing against her consciousness. "I think it wants us to make a choice. It's offering something, but the price, I don't know what the price will be." Dr. Kim's scanner went wild, the readings becoming erratic once more. "Lena, there's something else. This energy, whatever it is, it's spreading. It's not just confined to this vault anymore. The whole moon is resonating with it." Lena felt a jolt, a sudden shift in the air, as if the very fabric of space was bending around them. The walls of the chamber began to hum louder, vibrating with power. The vault was alive, but it wasn't just a passive conduit. It was reacting to something external, something coming toward them. "We need to leave," Lena said, her voice urgent. "Whatever we've awakened, it's not just for us. The Nyrax will come, and I have a feeling they won't be the only ones." Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the moon, and a distant, eerie hum echoed from somewhere beyond the vault. It was too late. The door had been opened, and the forces they had awakened were not ready to be controlled. Whatever the obelisk had been hiding, it was no longer a secret. And now, those who had kept it hidden would come, whether to reclaim it or destroy it. And Lena realized, with a sinking feeling, that humanity's true trial was only just beginning. The ground trembled again, and this time, the shake was violent, sending cracks racing across the walls of the vault. The energy in the room grew exponentially stronger, and Lena could feel it pulsing through her very bones. The humming had turned into a deafening roar, an uncontrollable surge that felt like it might tear the entire facility apart. "We have to go, now," Captain Pierce shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaotic vibrations. Lena's mind raced as she turned toward the open compartment housing the relics. They had awakened something far more powerful than they could have imagined. The obelisk was no longer just a relic. It was a beacon, calling out to an ancient intelligence that was not bound by the laws of time or space. Whatever was coming wasn't of this galaxy. It wasn't of any galaxy they knew. "Lena, are you hearing me?" Captain Pierce pressed, grabbing Lena's arm. "We don't have time for this. We need to get out, or we'll be buried alive in this tomb." Lena snapped back to reality, pulling herself away from the relics, from the ancient intelligence that still pulsed through her mind. The voice was silent now, but its presence lingered, pressing against the edges of her consciousness. She could feel the weight of its awareness, like a vast intelligence that was beginning to stir. She had no idea what it wanted or what its awakening meant, but one thing was certain. Whatever was about to happen, humanity had just crossed a threshold they could never return from. As they turned to leave, Dr. Kim's scanner beeped wildly, its readings off the charts. "Lena, there's something coming. It's huge. A ship? No ships. Multiple ships, headed right for us. They're not Naraks." Lena's stomach dropped. Who else could it be? She thought, her pulse quickening. "Get to the ship," Captain Pierce ordered, "now." The team raced back through the twisting corridors of the vault, the tremors growing more intense with each passing moment. The wall seemed to close in on them, the vibrations so strong now that it felt as though the entire moon was about to collapse. Lena's mind was on overdrive, trying to process what she had felt, what she had seen, and the knowledge that was now etched into her very being. When they reached the surface, the Athena was still there, waiting for them. The moment they boarded, Captain Pierce barked orders, her eyes scanning the distant sky. The ship's engines roared to life as the crew scrambled into position. Lena, breathless and shaken, looked at Dr. Kim. "What did you see on that scanner? Who's coming?" Dr. Kim's face was pale, his hands shaking as he studied the readings. "I don't know what to make of it. The ships, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. They don't even have a hull like the Naraks or any known species. They're organic." "Organic?" Lena repeated, her voice tight with disbelief. "What do you mean?" "They're living ships," Dr. Kim said, his voice trembling. "Somehow grown, not built. I don't know how, but they're definitely coming for us." Before anyone could respond, a series of intense flashes of light lit up the sky, bright, jagged streaks that seemed to tear through the very fabric of space. The Athena lurched as the ships descended, their massive forms blotting out the stars above. They were here. Lena gripped the seat in front of her, her mind racing. What had they done? The ships were too close now. There was no time to run. They were surrounded. Captain Pierce swore under her breath as the proximity alarm began blaring. "Brace for impact." The first wave of firepower hit the Athena hard, a series of energy blasts that shook the vessel and sent it careening to the side. The crew was thrown from their seats, but they quickly regained their footing, scrambling to keep the ship under control. "Get us out of here," Pierce barked, trying to stabilize the vessel. Lena's gaze flickered back to the scanner, her heart in her throat. The ships weren't firing in a traditional pattern. They were targeting something, and it wasn't the Athena. It was the moon, the ancient vault, the place they had just fled from. "They're going for the vault?" Lena said, her voice barely a whisper. "What?" Captain Pierce turned toward her, disbelief in her eyes. "Why?" Lena swallowed hard. "I think they're here for the obelisk. They must have sensed its activation." "Who are they?" Dr. Kim asked, his face filled with terror. Lena didn't have the answer. The only thing she knew was that the galaxy was about to change in ways they couldn't predict. The ancient force they had awakened had drawn the attention of powers far beyond anything the Naraks, or humanity, had ever known. A new war was beginning, one that would not be fought with ships and weapons alone, but with the very fabric of existence itself. And humanity was right at the center of it. The relics, the intelligence, the ships, it was all connected. The time of awakening had come, and Lena knew that the only way to survive was to uncover the truth behind the relic's power before it was too late. But even as they fought to escape, one thought kept echoing through her mind. The reckoning has begun.